Pterafolk, the bardic paladin, who sings and plays again. He tells the tales of glory and weaves a magic story. He'll join you at your table and ask you to share a fable. Heroes of humble origin, villains who must be fought again. No matter their skill or prowess, the people in life are countless. So we pray you heed our request. Enjoy this tale of sidekicks and side quests.
Episode 160, Victoria, the Pterafolk Dog Matchmaker. Welcome to Sidekicks and Side Quests, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast that helps to put humans back into humanity and breathe life into your campaign NPCs with backstory and bravado. That's right, we're building a world, one character at a time. I am your host, Kurt Krenwelge, the Bardic Paladin, and I'll be joining the Canine Detective's table in the Levitating Platter. Hello, and welcome to another exciting month's episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests, the best unofficial Dungeons & Dragons podcast, in my humbly biased opinion. The time we're recording this should hopefully be the first episode of the brand new season. So season 7, woohoo, we're here, recording this way in the past, but don't let that distract you from the fabulous guest that I have for you this month. But before I can get to my guest, you know I have to do it. I have to leave you in suspense with the ad read. This podcast is brought to you by Plus One EXP and their brand new RPG Zine Club. It's a golden age of indie and small press RPGs. For the last several years, Plus One has made it our mission to help new indie creators and small press imprints get their products onto tables worldwide. Our highest goal is to create more sustainable and equitable pathways to getting games made and played. Now we want to take on our most ambitious project yet with RPG Zine Club. What is RPG Zine Club? It is a monthly membership subscription service featuring fresh zines from emerging and expanding creators across the globe. It's our way of inviting GMs, players, and zine lovers everywhere to invest more intentionally in the creative community. It's crowdsourced support without crowdfunding. Now, what are some of the features you have to look forward to when you join the RPG Zine Club? Well, you've got monthly releases with 2 20 to 44 page saddle stitch zines. Take your pick from story zines, adventure zines, or get both kinds. You can get print and digital or digital only of your favorite titles. Join the Clubhouse Discord. It's a section of our online community for club members to discuss and play new titles. Get the best prices guaranteed. You can select your frequency of how often you'd like titles, and you can get what you want and only get what you want. If you miss a month, there's no worries there. You can add recent titles to your month's order and get an annual surprise each February after your first anniversary. Get access to special content, including interviews, how to play videos, and special content for Zine Club titles. Do you like free pizza? Fill out one of the RPG Zine Club passports and redeem it for free pizza at events. You're going to get to encounter new and known designers. We source the best voices from across the RPG design community. We curate zines based on community interest and feedback to help you discover your new favorite creators. We are DIE focused. Plus One is committed to champion diversity, inclusion, and equity in our projects. Creators with diverse experiences make our community better. Zine Club prioritizes creating equity for all of our creators. And it's more than a purchase. Your subscriptions will let us invest more heavily in our print partners and provide them with potentially life-changing support by consolidating scores or hundreds of purchases as the club grows. So, if you want more details, please be sure to go to the website rpgzine.club. And this all can be found also by going to the website plus1exp.com. On that website, if you're making a purchase for a beard balm, a lip balm, beard RPG, or whatnot, and you're looking for a code to use at checkout, be sure to use the code Randolph, RANDOLPH, and save some coin on your purchase. Again, the website to get the discounts from me and provide a kickback to me to help support the podcast would be plus1exp.com with code Randolph. And be sure to go and check out the brand new rpgzine.club. All right. And we're back. And without further ado, I turn the microphone over to my guest and I ask, hello, mystery contestant, would you care to introduce yourself? Tell us who it is that you are and what is it that you do?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. My name is Kirsten, but I go by Kay because it's much easier to pronounce. And I am the Canine Detective. I run a virtual dog training company, but I'm not going to get into too much detail on this podcast. But basically, I am a certified behavioral consultant. I help people with their pups. And why I'm on here is because I am obsessed with TTRPGs, not just D&D, but a whole host of other systems. And I had this little idea in my head of like, but what if we could role play dog training? But what if we could learn to train our dogs and learn more about our dogs within the fun little realm of D&D, which I like to spend my free time. And so as I was noodling on this and I didn't really see anything out there, I decided to create it myself. And I'm really excited to create an NPC with you on this podcast that I will be using in this upcoming system.
Awesome. And Kirsten was gracious enough to like actually reach out to me through socials. So I do actually check the messages that come in, albeit they may be hidden somewhere for my older millennial brain to actually detect and see. But I do in fact see them. And so thank you so much for reaching out and being a guest because I feel like everyone should have their shot and be able to come on the podcast and get to have the experience of what it's like being on a podcast and getting to make NPCs and to have good conversations with people. Because, I think this world needs a little more conversation. Wasn't that the Elvis Presley song? No, he said a little less conversation. I'll say the opposite. I think we need a little more conversations going on. But just imagine that it's Elvis singing it, really catchy. So, but that's cool. So yeah, what got you into being a consultant dog behaviorist and helping out with that?
Yeah, so my first dog was a rescue dog when I was in my early 20s living on my own, and I had always wanted a dog. And I thought, oh, fantastic, I'm living on my own. I'd cleared it with work. I could take this dog to the office. And I was like, you know what? I will do, the kind thing, the best thing that I thought in that moment. I'm going to go through a rescue. The rescue took a look at me and said, hey, you like hiking, you live on your own, you should get a blue heeler. And for anybody who's listening to this that knows anything about cattle dogs, they are not the easiest dog, but I didn't know that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, this guy had canine OCD, chased his tail, barked at shadows. He had heartworm. He was reactive to stranger dogs and humans. So this was a lot for my first dog. And so it's a very old tale in the industry, but kind of when you get a rescue like that, you have to train your dog so much and learn from a lot of trainers that you kind of set yourself on the path to become a dog trainer yourself. And years later, certifications later, multiple dogs later, here I am.
Wow. And I'm on my first dog too. His name is Bishop, and
Cute.
he is a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. So if you've prowled
That's
the
so
social media,
funny.
yeah.
No, my youngest is a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Her name's Lilo.
Oh, Lilo, fun. Yeah, if you've been on the social medias, I think like at least one 4th of July picture I took, I was drinking like a can of Bishop's cider, which is like I think an Austin, Texas based cider. And I had my dog Bishop in my lap. So I was like, oh, happy 4th of July from Bishop while we drink a Bishop. So I thought it was pretty fun. Yeah, he's a good dog. And certainly what you said about like, oh, you learn a lot from your first dog. And this dog has certainly cost us enough trips to the vet. So it's like, okay, well, we still love you, but you're chasing Shadow. I don't know if he'll boop his nose after shadows is his thing. So he likes to boop his nose and like go after it. And I'm like, stop. Like, and then he's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. But then he'll go like right back to doing it. And I'm like, you goof. But he likes to cuddle and he's a good dog.
Is he a bird chaser too?
I mean, I suppose all the birds and the squirrels kind of flee as soon as he darts out the back door to go use the potty and stuff like
He
that.
strikes such a fearsome figure that, they all know to vacate the yard.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and we have enough bird feeders out there, that they're comfortable hanging around and eating, and helping us with our bug population
Mm.
in this area. So we're thankful for that. Well, cool. Yeah. So I mean, as you said, you yourself are a big fan of TTRPGs, not just Dungeons and Dragons, but as I said, this is kind of like a D&D themed
Oh,
podcast. So
absolutely. Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you if you currently or if you've ever played D&D before.
Oh yeah, I've played in a few different campaigns, and one currently I've just did a mental scroll in my head, and like I'm playing multiple TTRPGs, but I think only one of them is actually D&D. I think the others are other systems, if I'm remembering off
Okay.
the top of my head correctly. Yeah.
So like what games are you playing? How many campaigns are you in right now?
4?
Wow.
I'm counting back in my head. Yeah, 4.
So one's D&D and what are the other 3 that you're playing?
One is a homebrew, so that DM has made that entire system. It's his own intellectual property.
Okay.
I think that's called Anacropia. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. It's a game called Sworn on the Sticks. I found him on Start Playing, and it's really, really good. It's based off of Greek gods and Olympia. So the scoring system, he made it all himself. So it's his own homebrew system for that.
Okay.
Then also with him is the D&D one I'm playing. I have another one, Thirsty Sword Lesbians, coming up, and another one that's a hybrid of Daggerheart and Good Society.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've heard several of those and you mentioned Start Playing and it's like, oh yeah, I do that too on the side when I can. So it's fun. Yeah, it's a good resource out there. I'm not sponsored by them, but you know
Oh,
what? If Start Playing
sorry, you can
games
bleep that out totally.
No, that's fine. You know, I don't mind throwing people to good businesses and things that I like and enjoy. So, you know, hey, Start Playing Dog Games. If you're looking for a new sponsor or podcast to sponsor, rather, you should maybe consider maybe, but we're happy to promote you on this podcast.
After this goes live, just emailing them the link to the podcast,
Yeah. Let me slip this under your door real quick.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's where you end up playing a lot of your games, or are you able to play in person as well?
All of them. The ones in person are always interesting. I technically have one in person, but it's always tough to kind of wrangle people together. We're hoping it's going to be a monthly thing, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what really allowed me to get back into this hobby is stop trying to convince people I know IRL to play with me. Not that people don't want to, but they're just not as into it as I am. And so they will
Mm-hmm.
if their schedule works.
Uh-huh.
But versus this is like, oh, this is I work and I have my dogs and my fiance, and then this is my hobby. Versus others have like other things that prioritize, totally fine. But as everyone knows, like the great enemy that we all need to face is unfortunately the unwieldy schedule of getting everybody together.
Indeed. Yeah, and so having those digital resources available certainly makes it easier, and it's a way to get to make new friends
Mm-hmm.
from all across the country and the world. So there we go. Well, as we're chugging along through these questions, you know, this podcast is all about the sidekicks and the side quests. So, for this next question, do you happen to have a favorite NPC or sidekick character? Whether they're from an RPG, a video game, maybe a movie, film, television, literature, etc. And why is this character your favorite sidekick or your favorite NPC?
This is really hard, and I knew this question was coming up, and now that it's being asked, I'm like, what am I going to put down as my favorite of all time? A lot of the ones that are coming to my brain are a lot of the animal sidekicks from like cartoons in like the early 2000s, mid 2000s. So top of mind is like Rufus from Kim Possible. This might not have been of your generation.
I mean, I knew Kim Possible was on TV, but I wasn't much of a Disney Channel watcher.
Very fair.
But I had friends who loved Kim Possible, sure.
So Kim Possible was one of my favorites growing up for a number of reasons. It was very much to that era where like Spies was a thing. You had Kim Possible, you had Totally Spies.
You had Spy Kids, the movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was kind of that thing of that era. And I always really liked Rufus, and Rufus is Ron. So this is also funny because sidekicks from multiple layers. So Kim Possible's the main character. Ron Stoppable, who's her best friend, is technically her sidekick, and it's a thing throughout the whole series that he's her sidekick. And then Ron has a pet naked mole rat named Rufus, and Rufus is technically his sidekick. So it's kind of like sidekickception. But this brings us back into B plots, and one of my favorite B plots is when this is very ironic, is that like romance, like friends to lovers as the B plot, as like the world is ending or there's like other things going on. So one of the major B plots of Kim Possible is that Ron Stoppable, the sidekick, gets the girl being Kim Possible, his best friend. So yeah, that's 2 in 1, I guess, one of my favorite tropes.
I was gonna say, because do they know that, like, oh, they have their alter egos and they're like at school together, but then they know they're spies, or like,
No, for Kim Possible, it's I don't even know if people are going to bring me up in the comments of like, this is what she is. I don't think that she's a spy. She is, what do they call her?
a secret agent?
Yeah, I guess so. But she's like a secret agent of one. She like
Mm.
her backstory lore was she was a babysitter setting up a website, and her tagline was like, Kim Possible, she can do anything. And this kind of devolved to people asking her to like go save something from a submarine and all of these kinds of like crazy things. She has like evil villains that she fights and things. So she's yeah, secret agent, but again, secret agent of one. She works for herself.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't have guessed that in a million years, and I would have had to have gone to some wiki page to find out what this plot was all about. But okay. So do you think that's a twofer then? So you like Rufus the mole rat, and then the favorite side quest or B plot element is this, oh, we're work acquaintances, we're friends, and then eventually like we admit feelings for each other and we're
I
gonna
think
get together.
I think so, because I'm even thinking back to a lot of my favorite like TV shows and comedies and things, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, another example of like
Mm.
Amy Santiago and Jake Peralta get together. The Good Place, my favorite show of all time. Have you
Mm.
seen it? I don't want
I
to.
have, yes.
Yes, okay. So they Chidi and Eleanor get together, and that was definitely not the main thing because there were so many twists and turns in that one.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say consistently that's probably my B plot. Favorite B plot anyway.
Okay. I like that. Just the trope as a whole, maybe, and it covers so many different pieces of media that whenever you see it, you're like, this is the thing that I love. This is the joie de vivre that I crave.
And it's not necessarily like a searchable category. Like I wasn't even necessarily sure how to articulate it, but then as soon as you asked me the question, I'm like, yeah, there's like a number of ones that I can recall off the top of my head. That's the same.
Yeah, we can go to tvtropes.org, I think the website is.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's like a database website where you can type in any sort of trope that you can think of that will crop up in popular media, and then it, like a wiki will kind of sort of index them all and explain like how one trope may be opposed to this other trope or it's related tangentially to this other trope. So it's a useful website if you're like, oh, what's the thing where it's like the one guy, has the stretchy powers, or oh, this is the fastest man alive, or whatever. And, so then at least lists all the different properties that have all those similar things.
Well, thank you. I've never heard of that before, but I've just put that in my browser so I know what I'll be doing after this call.
Fair enough. And then the way that we round out the personal interview section of the episode is, Kirsten, what are you passionate about and why?
Dogs and stories in all of its forms. It's really funny, actually, because while I've outwardly changed, my mother likes to frequently remind me that since I was 5, I'm like, I want to work for myself. I want to have a partner. And I want to have dogs and my house and travel. And however many decades later, not much has changed. Those are the things that I've always wanted. And those are the things I strive for to this day. And I've always loved stories. I was a big sci-fi nerd, actually, even before I got into fantasy. So it's been really fun getting back into TTRPGs really in the last 5 years or so. I was one of those ones that got back into it in the pandemic kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fun to kind of explore those kinds of stories in different mediums, whether that be like TV shows or video games or RPGs.
So thinking on this passion question, it has me thinking or reminding me that, kind of like the trope of like, oh, the best friends to, to romantic partners, from the platonic to the romantic love. There's another trope or another type of genre of stories, maybe not necessarily boy and his dog, but I was getting more to the root of like, dog stories. Everyone loves dog stories, the heart-wrenching ones, the goofy ones, the cartoon ones, the silly ones. And just thinking on this in the spur of the moment, I don't know. Could you pitch me what you think the greatest dog story is? Like,
Ooh.
I could name a couple on my hand that I'd be like, "Ooh, if I had to rank them, you know, but I'm just curious, you are the dog expert in this matter between the two of us.
So this popped up into my head immediately. So my first fandom ever was Scooby Doo.
Ooh,
And
there we
my
go.
eldest dog actually is named Velma after Velma Dinkley.
Mm.
And one of the one shots that's kind of like a recurring one that I've been popping into is Saturday morning cartoons. And so you get to like solve mysteries like it is like you're in an episode of Scooby Doo. It's not necessarily Scooby Doo coded. It's also like Gravity Falls and that kind of
Ooh,
vibes,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
But my character for that was Jinx Dinkley, Velma Dinkley's goth emo cousin, and she has
Okay.
a Great Dane dog. So when you said that, my brain immediately went to Scooby Doo, and I think that would
Ooh,
be my top one for a number of reasons.
yeah.
I also just like mysteries above all other genres. Actually, that does beat out fantasy and sci-fi in my books.
Yeah. Scooby-Doo certainly is a strong contender. I mean, I'm an 88 baby, so like I was a kid when All Dogs Go to Heaven came out. So like
Yes, yes.
that's top tier.
So many of the dog ones are so hard because a lot of times like the dog dies or like the kid or like something happens. Like Fox and the Hound is also sad. All
Fox and the
dogs
Hound is
go to
also another
heaven.
very good one.
Yeah,
Yes.
but like what's up with this theme of like, heartbreak? Either the dog dies, the kid dies. So a lot of
Right.
those a
Yeah,
lot of
Old
those.
Yeller.
Yeah.
That was one I never watched, but I mean that's one that Gen X and baby boomers are familiar with and will often use as a cultural reference of
Yeah.
of sadness. So
Marley and Me was another one that was a bit more recent,
yeah,
but still not that recent.
that one's kind of newer, but yeah, I did see. Yeah, I did see Marley and Me. It's just something, I don't know what it says to the human heart, the human spirit, where it's like, oh, people can be cruel to each other all day long and no one bats an eye, but the minute that like a dog is in peril or emotional turmoil, oh, Homeward Bound. There we go. Those are
Yeah,
ones from
yeah.
when I was a kid. It's like the minute that a dog, like, how dare you inconvenience a dog? That dog is a saint. That dog would never do you wrong, sort of a thing.
If we're going back to Disney, you have all of like The Lady and the Tramp, 101 Dalmatians.
Oliver and Company,
Yep, yep.
which is my wife's. She would say that one
That
is
was her
would
favorite.
probably be her favorite dog movie if I had to ask her. So yeah, there's a lot of good dog movies out there, and you should you put some on your letterbox. Put them on your wish list of movies to watch, and let the good tears and the joyful sad tears flow, and
Have you know?
and connect with your inner child, with your
Yes.
uh your dog loving spirit, I guess.
With a box of tissues and chocolate, but if you have a dog, keep the chocolate
Do
away from
not,
the dog.
yes, do
Yeah.
not feed your, yeah, well, without diverting this into a whole tangent, grapes. And so long story short, we've had to become a no grape household because of an incident on 4th of July just this past couple months ago at the time of recording. So love you, son, but that's the reason why we can't have grapes in the house for a long while until you're older and more responsible. So
Some dogs, though, my eldest is a sight hound and can jump quite far. She jumped over a baby gate and onto a kitchen table and ate raisins out of a kid's breakfast bowls while she was still at her breeders. So sometimes it's the kid and sometimes it's the dog.
that's true. Perfect. Well, we've made it through the personal interview section of the podcast, and now it's time to head in to some NPC creation. And NPC creation is brought to you by you, the podcast audience, and our patrons from Patreon. So now's the time of the show where we give a shout out to our comfortable patrons and above with a loud hurrah. So I've got a can of Dr. Pepper today, nothing fancy. I know it's been a day, but you know what? Sometimes you just need a good Dr. Pepper. So cheers. Again, all these fine folks donate $2 or more a month. Again, Anson Jablinski and good old mom and dad. Cheers. I don't think I said the names, but now I did. Of course, I got to shout them out. All these folks I named are actually what we consider wealthy tier patrons, which means they get to introduce an element of chance to the random tables that we have here in this section of the show. We might get to hear some of their responses used today. So if you want to learn more about all the cool, awesome things we've got waiting for you on our Patreon, you should go to the show notes below. You should go to the podcast website and social medias, or just go directly to patreon.com/sidekicks and sidequests to find out about all the different paid tiers of accommodations that we have awaiting for you. But you know what? I've got quite a number of free people that just like to hang out and be plugged in with the Patreon, so you could do that too. No shade or nothing. And I've got Ko-fi if you like that. But, those are all the places where you can find out about it and help us to grow and expand our operations in the levitating platter in this demi-plane and worlds beyond. Okay, so now we're here in the part of the show where we get to make up a character. And I know you came in, you had your pitch ready, locked and loaded, and you're like, okay, I have an idea for a character. But it sounds like maybe you're also open to rolling some dice to kind of help fill in some details. Is that kind of what I'm sensing?
Oh, absolutely. I know the function this NPC is going to have.
Okay.
And I know her general vibe, but a lot of the specifics I'm very open to randomizing.
Okay. And so what are kind of like the what's the skeleton framework that we're working for? So what are the bounds that we have to stay within, and then where are we free to play elsewhere?
Absolutely. So this character is going to be a dog matchmaker. So she is going to match adventurers with their would-be canine companions.
Interesting.
What that actually means in terms of appearance and different things is very malleable, but I thought in my head, and I'm open to being persuaded, that she would be maybe like an older female, like the equivalent of like retiree. Not sure her race. I thought halfling, but very open. But like in human terms, like 65 and up, like
okay,
retiree, but not necessarily at the end of their lifespan, but has like lived a life, very wise, has a lot of like world experience to draw upon in order to make these matches. Why I initially thought, oh, halfling, in addition to the fact that I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, is I thought, like, what if this is like this matronly great aunt figure that like, so I can easily pop her in a city or pop her in the countryside or something, can just like shuffle around and stay at relatives' houses, easily portable, that sort of thing. But again, doesn't need to be that. Could be a completely different race. Does need to be something that's not super. I don't want to pick a race where it would be one that in a world would be initially scary to people. Like you want grandma vibes is what we're going for. Like,
you're not okay with a mind flayer dog matchmaker?
I don't think
I have the perfect dog for you.
I just don't think that too many people would want their services,
Look at this fine dog, and it's an intellect devourer, like acting like a dog. It's like, yes, this is a fine creature that you should want.
Yeah, walking brain,
Okay, well, it sounds okay. So we've got some good guardrails to work with, and everything else we're just going to leave to chance and have some fun today.
Absolutely.
So there we go. All right, the first question that we have to ask ourselves here in NPC creation is, what's going to be the name of our character? If you need to randomize this, you can just roll a d20 and we can see what we get.
Well, see, I feel like, and I don't want to nitpick you on your own show, so feel free to edit this out. Do we not need to have the ancestry, i.e. like their race, come before the actual naming convention? Because depending on the world, do races have certain like naming conventions? Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's a good question. And I know people a lot smarter than me and with bigger YouTube channels certainly have posited all sorts of different arguments. Our sponsor, one of our sponsors of the podcast that I've had on a couple times, Mr. Tony Vicinda, I know for his preference, whenever he's been on the show, he always saves the name for last. And that's a personal preference that I allow for. But I also kind of think it's an interesting exercise because sometimes, you can get a name and you have like, you're like, okay, so like Bob. Okay, I start thinking about Bob and what is a Bob to me. But then as you start rolling the other dice, you're like, oh, actually, I have to contend that this orc is named Bob, and Bob is a tailor who is also a teenager. And so, like, okay, well, what does a Bob mean to me in that circumstance? And maybe it's a cultural thing. Bob may not be a naturally orcish occurring name, but Bob could be something because I'm a teenage tailor, and this is just like a thread in Bob, and that's the nickname that I picked up or whatever.
No one can pronounce my name in Orcish or something.
So it's your preference. If you'd like to roll the d20 now and see what you get, that's cool. Or if you want to wait till later to kind of get us inspired and kind of get your name later, you could do that too. It's up to you. You're my guest.
Yeah, you know what? Your sponsor has inspired me. Let's leave the name to last and kind of randomize everything else first and see where the chips lie. I'm kind of weird about names. I named all my dogs after specific characters. I'm very much so like figure out what the personality is and then name afterwards. That's just me.
Fair enough. Hey, nope. All power to you. So there we go. All right, we're gonna come back around to that one. So jumping to the next question, what's going to be the ancestry of this character? Now, for this random dice roll, you get to roll 2d10s for a d100 effect. And I've scoured every book that I possibly have to find every possible ancestry and species and race to use
Cool.
that could conceivably be, interacted with by players.
Sounds good. Let me just bring up like the 2d10 die on Google.
There we go. Always can depend on Google for random dice rolls.
14
as I check the list. Okay. Are you ready for this one? You have a choice.
Mind Flayer.
Not Mind Flayer, thankfully. That's a little later in the list, I think.
Gotcha. You
have a choice between standard lizard folk, Surin, or Pterafolk. So basically in the category of lizard / dinosaur anthropomorph. Yeah, I know lizard folk, obviously standard from the regular monster manual. Surins, I believe, were introduced in the Spelljammer books, but also existed in other adventures. And I think the Pterafolk specifically come from the Tomb of Annihilation. So in the Forgotten Realms, it would be like, Cholt or whatever. But basically, you're some kind of lizard folk or dinosaur person is what the dice say. So
okay.
Yeah. So what are you kind of more leaning towards? You thinking?
To be completely honest with you, haven't really played with anyone who's chosen to play a lizard folk, so this is something I'll need to research.
Okay, fair enough.
Not me Googling, will lizards eat dogs?
Well, see, the thing is, we can take the lore however we want. We can take
fair.
And leave what we like. So maybe your lizard really finds advantages in hanging out with dogs. Maybe was the one lizard that was compassionate and was like, hey, maybe instead of eating these things, we should work alongside them. I found this wolf. This wolf is a perfectly good companion, and this wolf is my friend.
Interesting. Okay. I will need to do some research. Not me thinking, do you know off the top of your head, how long do these guys live?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head, but I have to think that biologically speaking, they're probably not meant to live long because, if you use them as a monster, the idea is like, they reproduce fairly quickly, and that way there could be lots of them for you to fight. But as far as like a culture or a people group or something like that, I don't know. Like I said, we can take the lore however we want. Maybe these are like, Gila monster type lizards that like live however long, or they're like Galapagos turtles and they just live for like centuries on end. So, could be interesting how you decide to take this particular lizard / Surin / Pterafolk, whichever one you firmly land on, unless it sounds like you're committing to the lizard folk.
As you're speaking, trying to Google and am not getting results that are being very helpful. Pterafolk, when I type that into Google, is giving me a band. It is a violin group.
Oh, well, there we go. Yeah, Terra, like pterodactyl, like, so it's got to have the P in front of it, obviously. And then Surin has a double S at the beginning. So I know that one can be confusing because it's like SSURRAN for those guys. Kirsten's researching there, which is fine and good. And we can just keep on rolling with the momentum. So it sounds like we've already got the role or the job in society figured out, because
Yep.
this individual is a dog matchmaker, which also kind of sounds like they're specifically like a dog or hound breeder. So like they're in a community, and what is it that they do? Oh, they have like a bunch of dogs, and they're constantly trying to like match up like dogs for the different adventurers that come through the area and stuff.
Mhm. This is true. This
Okay.
is true.
And then the age range, it sounds like we've already got that figured out, because we're thinking like an elderly, like young elder, not like elder, but like a young elder, like fresh, like I just claimed Social Security. Like I'm brand new to this whole retired lifestyle, and not having to worry so much about maybe running the day to day of the business. That's for my many offspring and children to handle, because now I can just be the perfect matchmaker, not only with my dog breeds, but in matching them up to adventurers. Okay. So I know as we're working our way through the questions, we're coming up on the question of describe your physical appearance. So I don't know if you need me to stall a little bit longer, but I don't know. What are you thinking for our friend here? So you're thinking on these details of like, okay, some sort of like lizard or dinosaur person. They're a dog breeder matchmaker. They're elderly, but on the young side of elderly. We don't have their name yet, but we're going to so soon discover their name. But with these details that you have in mind, can you paint us a picture and describe their physical appearance?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a very like granny, matronly Pterafolk creature. And I think that she's going to be, I think, kind of obviously one of these like ancient races. There's probably not a ton of them left in this world. I think, I'm taking a look at the Wizards of the Coast image right now. It looks like if a pterodactyl was a humanoid. I think that maybe I'll make her a cool color or something rather than green. Maybe she'll be kind of bluish, blend in amongst like the night sky kind of thing.
Okay.
She's going to have some more wrinkles because she's on the elderly side, She might have some like crinkles around her eyes. Maybe she has
and
like
her size category is large. So these Pterafolk aren't like, they're not small and they're not medium. They're like large. So
she'd be a giant. So she's going to have like her big, when you come into her office, she'll have like her big armchair, like this big throne that she's there, and then she has like the like person-sized chairs on like the other side of it. And she's just like, and why do you think that you're suitable to own a dog? What makes you think that you can take care of one of my creatures, kind of thing? Because she's like, very protective. These are her babies that she's trying to find homes for, kind of thing. Yeah, so I think maybe she might have some like holes busted and like burnt at the edge of her rings. Like she was probably an adventurer in her youth, kind of thing. And this is her retirement career.
I see.
So she was an adventurer, and this is why she wants to match dogs with adventurers.
Now I'm curious, what kind of, if we had, the whole joke about like, oh, it's all fun and games to boss around the shopkeeper until the shopkeeper reveals that they're a retired level 20 fighter and they take all of you to town. I'm just curious, this, this elderly retired Pterafolk dog breeder and matchmaker, what was her job? What was her class that she was?
This is redacted. Everyone for her previous adventuring party died.
Oh.
She's the eldest out of this guild, and she's since retired from the board, so all of her files are sealed shut. So people know her names, but they don't know what adventure she was on. They don't know like who her old adventuring party was. It's very secretive. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know for me, like with animals, I was like, oh, Ranger would be an easy one. Or if you like third party content like MCDM's the Beast Heart class, I was like, oh, those would be like the two easy classes. Like if I was gonna take it, but I totally love this idea of like redacted. I was part of a guild, but like we don't talk about what I did. We don't talk about what I did in the war, sort of a thing.
You know, the files are sealed shut. Maybe some were burnt down in various crusades, you know. Is it
Yeah, maybe
turbulent?
she's the one who burned the files.
We don't know. These are turbulent times where like adventuring guilds are sanctioned, and so clearly there's enough unrest that we need adventuring parties to be like a thing that happens, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and we definitely, I'm looking at the stat block for Pterafolk, CR1 normally you'd find them, and it's prescribing, oh, they're neutral evil, but of course we don't have to go along with that unless you like the idea of this neutral evil Pterafolk that's like, yes, my pretties, and it's like shadow mastiffs and like hellhounds and stuff that she's trying to match up. But I imagine some of those breeds get a bad rap, and it's like, you know what, hellhounds, they're just sweeties. You just have to know how to handle them and stuff.
Part of what I'm developing right now is like a compendium of like fey mythical dog breeds of like either spoofs on dog breeds that we actually have or things like, you know, if you lived in a completely underwater society, what kind of dogs would you have? Or like if you live at, you know, if
Yeah.
dogs had wings, what would need to happen for that
She's a
environment
Pterafolk.
to
Does she have any winged dogs?
exactly. And so
Yeah.
this is what I think that I'm purposely also keeping it mysterious so that way she's easy to plop in various situations, you know, especially if this is kind of an ancient breed or
Yeah.
ancient folk of creature that, you know, sure, why not? You know, maybe this is the only Terra folk that around these parts. So yeah, she's an oddity, but it's not necessarily like
Interesting. I
yeah.
like it. Yeah. Okay. And so, so she has her big chair, she's in her office, her wings are showing age as far as like you were saying there may be like evidence of like old injuries and, battle scars and whatnot. But as far as the rest of her appearance is concerned, are there any other clues that we could have to her past life or just how she presents herself in her retired age?
See, it's very interesting because, you know, had she been a different kind of race, I'd be like, oh, she'd be the type of like old granny that would have like a dagger hidden in her bun or something like that. But, you know, Terra folk don't really need to like hide daggers and stuff on their body when they have these long beaks and claws, like talons
Yes.
that can kind of rip you to shreds, kind of thing.
And apparently javelins at the ready, looking at the stat block here. So maybe she's got some javelins
It's
cleverly hidden about her
exactly.
office.
It's probably like, you know, her walking stick is a
Oh
javelin
yeah.
in the corner kind of thing. I think actually on her body, it would be more like maybe like a decorative, like waist belt that is like jeweled colored, like looks like it would be part of a treasure hoard. Same thing with like rings and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
As a Terrafolk, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think. I think I might need to come back. I'm thinking to my head of like realistically what would behoove creatures of this nature to wear in terms of vestments. Like,
Yeah.
you know, what wouldn't get caught up in the wings while they're flying? Like I imagine something more form fitting. You know, if they're focused on aerodynamics, are they really the type that wants to be wearing armor? So I'm just thinking
Yeah. Well,
things like that.
you know what this reminds me of as we're describing this character? I just have, at the time of this recording, started playing Fallout New Vegas again for the first time in at least a decade. And of course, one of the favorite companion characters that you can get for your courier is a Nightkin super mutant who goes by the name of Lily. And she could remember that she used to be like a grandma before she was captured by super mutants, and then she was dipped in FEV, the forced evolutionary virus, in one of the VAT tanks, and then she mutated into a super mutant. So when you meet her character in Jacobstown, she's one of the Nightkin, so she's kind of got like this bluish tint to her skin, not the normal super mutant green, but she has like goggles, she has a big sun hat, and she has what looks like overalls, like granny, like overalls stretched over her huge muscular body. So she looks like she should have a really mannish voice, but she talks like, "Oh, dearies, don't you get all worried. Grandma Lily is here." Super mutant voice, but she refers to herself and remembers like, "Oh, I remember my grandkids. Timmy, you're getting into all kinds of trouble." And stuff like that. So I'm wondering if maybe it's kind of that sort of a vibe where she has a couple of pieces that maybe suggest like, oh, I'm adopting like this dog breeder, dog matchmaker, retired leisure wear sort of a thing, but she's got a 50 fly speed. So if she needs to, she can take off and go do what she needs to do.
Yeah, I'm thinking that she, in her idea to like lull people into a sense of like relaxed state, she knows that like old ladies are supposed to have spectacles. So I think she's had specially made like spectacles to go on her beak kind of thing.
Yeah.
May or may not be a magical item for future players. Don't worry about it. But I think she's adopted the kind of like grandmotherly mannerisms and vestments as best she can for her physique.
Okay. Yeah, but she like, "Grandma, you're really big." Because most players would
What big
probably,
beak you have.
yes, what a great beak you have. Oh, the better to bite you with, to peck
Yeah.
you with. Like, what? No, ow, ow, ow. All right, I'll pay for the dog. I'm sorry. Yes, you'll like him. You'll like Fido. He's a good choice.
And I'm imagining her contracts have these like very specific clauses of like, should anything happen to this dog and it be your fault,
Ooh,
you'll have this character to answer to kind of thing. Like, as in like things happen on adventures and she understands that kind of thing, but if like she
sure.
hears that you like willingly abandoned the dog or something
Ooh.
like that, or like mistreated the dog, she will come after you. And these are all like magical contracts, so they are enforceable kind of thing.
She's raised all these dogs. Probably, she can easily scry on them, whether it's their collars or just the dogs themselves, because she's familiar with every dog she's ever sold. So she can maybe, as again, redacted records, so we don't know exactly what she did back in the war or her adventuring days, but maybe she's got some spell casting maybe that she can do, and she can if she can't do it herself, maybe she has a device that lets her scry, and she's like, "Oh, I wonder how Fido's doing," and then she's able to keep tabs on all the dogs and stuff.
She has friends still in the adventuring guild kind of thing. Like, she would have been mentors of people now running the adventuring guilds and that sort of thing. So
yeah,
for the adventurers that are like the new ones being like, yeah, I want to adopt a dog, they would be the head of the guild would be referring them to her. So other way she can go back to the head of guilds and be like, so how is this adventuring party doing? How is the state of this dog? That sort of thing.
They're on their third dog. Like, what? What is this? Third dog? What happened to their first two dogs? Glee. There we go. Fun.
I was just saying, like, one of the rules for ownerships might be something like she takes a look at, and so like, what level is your party at?
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh, tell me, do you have a healer in your party? Do you have like, if everyone's a barbarian, it's like, what level? It's like, she might be like, sorry, you're not strong enough to have a dog if you're going to take them out on an adventuring party. So she might challenge some people to duels or things like that to prove that they're strong enough, or they need to prove that they have health insurance for the dog by way of healer in their party or things like that.
You say healer, and it reminded me of your earlier story about the blue healer, and so now I'm just thinking of like, what dog breed best goes with which D&D class you are. And so it's like, cleric would obviously get a blue healer. Paladins would get a pincer.
Have you heard of Pugmire?
Yes, I have heard of Pugmire. Yes.
Yeah, so that's one of the games that I'm going to be running but retrofitting with some of my friends to kind of, to that effect of like, not, they're evolved dogs, but let's really play into their strengths. And so that's kind of the element I'll be adding to a lot of my campaigns with dogs of like, sure, the dog can do that, but you have to like justify like why a dog would behave that way,
Interesting. Okay. All right. And so as we're talking and discovering this Pterafolk individual, it helps us with role playing this particular NPC can you describe her with 3 adjectives? What adjectives are best going to describe her?
Ooh. Matronly,
Solid.
fierce.
Okay.
I wanted to go like all knowing or omnipresent without actually like she's not God, she's not godlike, but like she knows things she shouldn't.
Okay. So it
I don't
sounds
know what's
like, I
the
don't
word.
know, is she a harper, like the equivalent of like a harper, or like some, some sort of faction or organization that exists in the world that's like, oh, we have tabs on it's like we're like D&D CIA. It's
She
like we
may or
have
may not have
agents.
a spy network. That might be what her real, retirement plan is. But this is more of a hobby, but
Mm,
a front.
okay. Yeah, I mean certainly, people love dogs, and people are going to be open and
Oh, this is what
vulnerable.
she cares about. But I feel like I don't feel like someone of her caliber could have gone from fearsome adventurer to having a totally civilian life. So I feel like intelligence network might be an offshoot of her previous guild work or something like that.
So is of what she's doing now in her retirement years still in service to this organization, but she's kind of taken a more subtle approach, like soft power, instead of like, oh, I'm actively in the field, like doing the work and all this stuff.
I think she's a consultant. She doesn't report to anyone in her old
Hmm.
age, but she works alongside, she provides intel. People don't bother her because A, she has a lot of knowledge, and B, they aren't quite sure what all the redacted things are, so people are rightfully like cautious. Yeah, I see her being like adjacent, but not necessarily like she needs to apply by the rules of the guild. Because in
Hmm.
the world that I'm building, the adventuring guild is also somewhat of a bureaucracy where like actually
Sure.
you need to have a license to be an adventurer. Like we're not just sending anybody out to like go fight the dragon. This has a
Hmm.
whole bunch of like legal and ethical repercussions because if you fail, this town is destroyed kind of thing. So it's a
Yeah.
much more like you need to have a license. So similarly with the dogs is like, oh, these dogs have been certified by her that like they have the capability and temperament that they could go on adventures kind of thing.
That's cool. That's interesting. So yeah, we're not going to send a Chihuahua out in the field, but like, a
It
Shadow
depends on the
Mastiff.
chihuahua. It depends on the purpose. And this is why like I could talk a whole episode on just what this is. And so this is back part of her interview process. Is your adventuring party like the break in sneaking and steal stuff? Are you the going to save the dragon type? Because again, you need to be licensed to do different things. You need to have a proven skill set in different things. And so the dog that you'll be matched with will be based off of also the kind of adventures you are, the kind of adventures you will be doing.
Okay. I only have watched the first John Wick movie, but am I correct in remembering that like his code name or code phrase was like the Baba Yaga or something like that? Because I feel
Maybe.
like
I'm not
her
sure.
spy code name totally would be the Baba Yaga. Like
Something like
people would
this. Yeah.
refer to her in the spy world like, oh, the Baba Yaga. It's like you better watch out. Like you don't
Yeah.
want to
I
get on
may
her
or may
bad
not.
side.
I may not need to work on my Russian accent for this character. I'm not traditionally good at character voices, but this is something I will need to work on for her for sure.
Okay. All right, so we've got these adjectives and we're learning more about the character, and this is the part where I say, and now we get to go back to rolling some dice, and we
Mm-hmm.
want all of our NPCs to have something cool on their person. So
Cool.
this is a combination roll. So what is going to be a valuable item, piece of lore, secret, or ideal or concept that she would ascribe to? So in randomizing it, we do a combo roll where we do a D4 for the category and a D6 for the particular thing. And it sounds like we've maybe got a couple of things that we can just kind of throw in there for a bonus as well, because she's got like some kind of tie to a spy organization in the world. And, so she had some rank and prestige in that organization before she took a more relaxed, retired sort of a role. So that's just a freebie. But like, what's the unique thing on her person that she's going to have? And let's see.
So ironically, the D4 was a 4 and the D6 was a 6.
Okay, interesting. So this submission was from our good friend Matt from Roleplay Chat. The ideal or concept that our Pterafolk ascribes to: steal from the rich to give to the poor. So how do you think that kind of factors into her character when it comes to matching dogs with newbie adventurers and such?
Well, see, everything's a secret, right? So it's not like she's got her prices listed and things like that. It's you come to her, she sees whether or not she's willing to give you a dog, and she selects the dog for you.
Hmm.
Meaning that what this dog actually ends up being and their pricing and all that sort of jazz is totally determined by her. So might be for the more well-off adventurers, they might get charged a higher fee, and maybe the less affluent adventurers might be some scholarship, free to a good home situation.
Mm. Okay. So she is the market.
Socialism, you know?
She is the market. She determines what the prices are. Again, feeding into this idea of like the Baba Yaga, sort of a vibe to her character. So she's kind of scary, but somehow sweet as like this older retired person.
She's very genteel. She
Hmm.
has amazing mannerisms and treats you very nicely, is very much of the granny of like, feel free and take a cookie from the desk, dear, freshly baked, until they say something she doesn't agree with, and then
Hmm.
the demeanor changes.
I see. And then the way we round out our NPC is we have to give them a bright gold exclamation point to put over their head. So obviously, this character is going to function as a merchant, someone that they can go to be able to get these dogs, certainly. But, every NPC has problems or issues that they need the players to go and help them out with. So if you want to randomly roll for and determine a side quest that she could offer up, you can roll the last dice we have, which is a d12. Or if you're inspired, you can just kind of go ahead and lay it on us what you think the side quest that she would offer up to a bunch of characters to go and do.
So this actually came to me like 10 hours ago when I was listening to one of the more recent episodes. Listening to your guest then answer this question. And I think it would be something of some sort of clause in the contract of, and if you find a stray dog along the way, you need to write to her immediately so she can find that dog a home, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And more specifically, there's going to be a finder's fee. So if you encounter, because some of her dogs are not easily placeable, the dog that's constantly catching fire, the fire hound, might not do well with a farmer in their field, kind of thing, right? They might need a very specific home. So she always asks all the adventurers, and part of the adventurers guild, again, because she has, her talons in many pies. Part of the requirement when you sign up is like, oh, and if you find any interesting homes, a dragon all alone at the top of, a mountain with their hoard of gold that is looking for companionship, or like this witch in the middle of the woods, or etc., etc. If you find anybody interesting that is looking for companionship, you're right to Baba Yaga. She gives you a finder's fee if a dog gets placed with that person, kind of thing.
Okay, so the side quest is kind of like it's not a specific fetch quest, which, tangentially, that was a fantastic 3 episode series from Dungeons and Daddies where they all play dogs, and it was called Fetch Quest, which was a fantastic series of episodes. So it's not a fetch quest, it's not a I need you to do X in order to make Y happen for Z purpose. It's sort of like a passive daily, if I had to use like some
It's
MMORPG
like,
terms.
so like for a video game RPG, it would be something like, oh, depending on where you go on the map, there are like, say, 15, like over the course of the adventure. It's like, oh, and if you encounter so and so, the chat option would come up of like, how you can choose like what you say, like if
Yes.
you're playing a video game, there would be like, the secret third option sometimes for some of these encounters being like, ask them if they're lonely, or like ask them if they want a dog, kind of thing.
Right.
And
Kind
then,
of like in Baldur's Gate 3, where like depending on your background or your specialization, it's like you get a unique dialogue
yeah,
option where it's like, oh, hey, you look like you're a little down in the dumps. Would a dog cheer you up? Sort of a thing.
exactly. So like me as the GM, I would have like NPC characters like baked in of like, you came across this tavern and the matron is sobbing because her dog died recently. Like, there'll be situations where the players, it's up to them of like, I'm not going to say, hey, like, ask so-and-so. It's like of their own volition. So, and then the actual like finder's fee, again, because Baba Yaga, nameless, so we keep using this, might
Her
have
code phrase.
Exactly. She might have various things of like, oh wow, this was super rare, or like, I've been trying to place this dog forever. Here you go, magic ring that does magic powers, or it might just be a standard like, okay, here's 200 gold coins, like depending on the situation, the dog gets placed, things like that. So it's kind of like
tiered results. Like if you get like an S tier result, then it's like, hey, that +2 sword you were looking for, I just happen to have one of those.
Yeah.
Or it's like, okay, you find like a D or C grade match. It's like, okay, well, like, here's 100 gold, I guess, for your troubles, sort of a thing. But it's always just an open thing in the background with this character. Okay, so like a good sort of dependable source of like, man, we really need to, I'm really in the market for some magic items. All the dungeons have been plundered and no one is extending me line of credit. If we could just find a dog. She's been trying to put this dog with this one set of circumstances. Surely there's someone in this crazy old mixed up world that we can find them.
I can foresee many a side quest where it is literally just like, we found this dog and now we need to find it a home, or like, a lot of side quests to like find this one particular dog a home or what have you.
Never mind. Put the war on hold. Stop that. We found a dog in the middle of the trenches. This dog needs a home immediately. And then the DM's like, what? Oh, okay, I guess. Oh, here, Baba Yaga happens to have the magic item that you needed to get yourself out of your problem or whatever.
Yep, exactly. This jam will always reward putting the dog as the number one priority.
Okay, all right. So a good passive, constantly open side quest. So depending on how much your players want to turn that valve on and off, can yield different rewards. And the better of a match or a result means the better of a reward you're going to get. Because that obviously leads into the question, or we've already answered it as far as what's going to be the reward. Well, depending on how good the match is, depends on how good of the reward it is. And you imagine that there's no point in time where this side quest would ever end. It would just always, once you meet this character, it's just, you can always go do this thing. So if you decide that plundering dungeons and fighting necromancers is too much and you just want to turn this into a dog matchmaking RPG experience, then you can totally do that. And that's what your game is now.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. And then, all right. So that question's easily answered. But now we have to go to the flip side of the equation. What's going to be the consequence of failure or refusing the call to the adventure? So I guess somehow they managed to get a dog, but if they never honor this part of the contract, or they're not very good about noticing or keying into the fact that there's people that would like to have dogs, but no one bothered to ask them, or, oh, this match would have been great if we had remembered, but we had like 5 things on our plate. So what's going to be that consequence?
There's no negative consequence for not matchmaking a dog, but there is a negative consequence of like if you find a random dog and just leave them, kind of thing. So they'll like, Baba Yaga's got a spy net. She's got a network. The guild's got a network. All you needed to do was drop this dog off at a random guild outpost, and that part of the contract would have been satiated. The dog has been saved, kind of thing. So the only negative consequence would be like if she knows you abandoned dogs in harmful situations, or if she had placed a dog with you and you had mistreated the dog.
Okay. And then that's when she reveals the stat blocks of, I think I just used this NPC of like a CR10 spy master, and suddenly this large Pterafolk is zipping around and shooting at you with 3 multi-attack hand crossbow shots where she's doing piercing and poison damage for every shot. So, yeah.
Would instantly turn into final boss, total party kill.
She goes full John Wick, and she will just undo your party. Congrats, party. You've reset the campaign because now all of you have been bereft of life. Okay. All right, so we've made it all through this way. We've been using a code phrase of Baba Yaga, but we haven't actually named our fair former spy, now turned dog matchmaker breeder. So, what is the name of this character, or what name is she going to share with people, like common folk, newbie adventurers are like, "Oh, what do we call you?" And she gives them a name. What name is she going to use? Like Gladys, Lily, or B. Arthur, or any of the other Golden Girl names, or something like that.
I don't know. So
Blanche.
on the one hand, I feel like she's going to have multiple names because I feel like Baba Yaga or something of the equivalency needs to be her like spy network name, like what she's really
Yes.
known as kind of thing. And
Sure.
then she'll probably have something in her people's native language. But I feel like when you walk up to her like office, there's going to be like a little placard with the name. It's not going to be this, but something like Blanche or Gladys or like, those like little old lady names. And I'm not sure. Dorothy, maybe? Betty? I don't know. Can the randomizer help?
Well, let's see. I tried to just do a Golden Girls name generator. Well, Fantasy Name Generator came up as the top result for Victorian era names. So if you wanted
Well,
to give
okay.
that a spin,
Yeah,
we
let's
can
do
we
it.
can give that a few clicks. So I like go dib 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 dib. So let's see if I go down the list. We've got Eulalie, Albertina, Exie, Twila, Victoria, Samantha, Altha, Matey, Lenny,
I
Medi.
thought maybe Victoria and her friends call her Tori because Tori pterodactyl kind of thing.
Okay. So you want to land on Victoria?
I think so because I think if they say, "Oh, head to Victoria, dear," she'll sort you right out, and then you come to Victoria's desk, and it will say, on the front door, like Victoria Canine Matchmaker or whatever her title is, and you come in and there's just this Pterafolk there. I
Yeah.
just think it would be funny.
The terrifying Pterafolk.
Mm-hmm. And I love
Okay.
a pun.
And
I'm
you love a pun.
Yeah.
You become a dad, and it's just it's part of the contract when you become a dad is that you're just obligated to dish out puns whenever possible. Okay, so it sounds like we've made our way through all of the questions and filled in all the blanks, and we got to use some dice rolls, which is fun. But the question I have now at this point is: do you feel like Victoria is pretty well rounded out, or did you want to explore some optional questions, or are you ready to move on to the next part of the show?
You know what? If you have optional questions, feel free and throw it on me. I had one idea coming into this, and this character turned out very, very different than I thought, but I love her more. So I'm really willing to any auxiliary questions you have to kind of like help flush her out. I'm very eager to hear.
Yeah, so we've got like about 6 optional questions that if you wanted to breeze through them, we can, or if you want me to pick a couple of them, up to you.
You're the expert here. It's your show. You tell me what you think. You've interviewed or talked through so many people through this process. So what else do you think Victoria needs to be kind of the well-rounded NPCs that come off your podcast?
So for Victoria, how does she normally interact when it comes to different people, like with her, family and friends and peers versus enemies and rivals, and the people that she's working with to try and match up these dogs and such? How does she present herself? Is she pretty nuanced, or is she, the same across the board?
I think when it comes to people that know, it depends. I think how she comes across really depends on in what context you're encountering her. So I think she code switches a lot. So the community she's living in, where she's set up this business, this private practice, where she's this dog matchmaker, all of her clients that's coming through, I think very much doddering, kindly, retired old lady. She doesn't necessarily tell people that she's a retired adventurer or anything
Mm.
like that. I think she's very much so leans into like the grandmother archetype. She probably even like hunches more than she actually needs to. Like I think she adopts that kind of old grandmotherly mannerisms when encountering people in this context. And so I think that absolutely her accent, when I don't think her accent comes into play when she's kind of in her grandmother matronly like state. And I think that when she's kind of working with the spies, or especially the people in the guild, you hear like a heavily accented inflection. And I think that partly comes from common is probably not her first language. Her first language is probably whatever the native language is to Pterafolk, which will take on a particular effect. And I imagine that she naturally speaks common with that kind of effect, but she puts on a completely different like accent and air when she's talking like a grandmother.
Mm. And that leads beautifully into, any particular accent or language or idiosyncrasies and how she acts or speaks. And being a spy, she probably knows more, again, just the base stat block is like, oh, they just know common. But yeah, it makes sense that, Terra folk probably have their own cultural native language. And then based on wherever she's lived and she's been a spy, wherever she's been planted, she's been deep
Picking up
undercover,
languages, yeah.
she's picked up languages. So it's like your party of dwarves, just thinking and talking out loud in her shop, and you think that she doesn't understand what you're saying, but she knows three different dialects of dwarvish. She can tell exactly which clan that you're from, and you haven't even told her your name. I love it. Okay. All right, cool. And do you think, you were alluding to earlier, like, oh, I might have to brush up on my Russian if I was going to like accentedly talk as her. So you think like, oh, just like, oh, sweetie grandma, but then it's like, I am the cold. I am the Baba Yaga. You have
Yeah,
come to
pretty much.
me.
And I'm not sure if it will be Russian, but it was just the first thing that came to my mind due to pop culture. When you think spy, you think,
KGB.
yeah.
Yeah, the KGB. Yeah. No, I could, I could definitely see her fitting in with that organization. Okay. And then, so impact on the world. What kind of impact has she made on the world, and how has she shaped her local area specifically that we're going to find her in?
So why she will
I know it's
be
redacted, but like, do we have
well,
some clues as to how she shaped the local,
totally,
the
totally.
history of the area? Yeah.
So what's really fun about her is because of this world I'm building, she will be an NPC in different campaigns and one shots. One of the campaigns will be people who are going to adventuring school to get their adventurer's license and also needs to get their dog adventurer's license. So she matches these adventurers with the dogs.
Okay.
The dog needs the adventurer's license. The human needs, or the player needs the adventurer's license. And she teaches one of the classes that's like specifically how to work with your canine adventuring companion kind of thing. So
Okay.
that's one of the ways she's like a pillar in that community. I'm imagining it to be kind of like the equivalent of like maybe a university town. The
Sure.
academy's there. It's one of the,
Strixhaven.
yeah, and not even just that, because it's also like where it might be the main city. I don't know. Like it's where the bureaucrats are too, of like where you go to
Sure.
school, where you get your license stamped, where you do
Yeah.
the testing. It's like, yeah, it's a big trade market. So actually, anything to do with the adventuring brings a lot of trade to a particular town.
Okay. Okay. All right. So that's how she's in the local area, and as we've alluded to earlier, she may be from an ancient or on the way out group of people. So she's definitely going to be a rarity. Maybe even like a singular entity in this local population. She might be the only Terra folk around, like on this continent or something like
Yeah,
that.
I
Okay.
think that they're still they're still clans, but they're not as prosperous in number as some of the other folk in this realm.
Maybe even they've gone to like the elemental plane of air, because they can just fly and chill there. No one bothers them there. But she's decided to remain on the material plane for, her reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then as far as, does she have any current problems that prevent her from being a bigger player on the stage? It sounds like she used to be an even bigger player on the stage, but now she's moved into this different cycle of life for herself.
Yeah, I think it's more about, I think her problems are actually more interpersonal. So she's very
Mm.
much so in the adventuring space, right? She helps a lot of like up and coming adventurers. She helps people in the administration. But the people of like her era, adventurers don't live long lives a lot of the times, right?
Yeah.
So she's one of like the older ones left in the area.
Mm.
So never married and settled down. So it's not like she's got a partner or grandkids or actual kids, you know? So she's kind of one of
Mhm.
those like matronly everything. They called everybody dear, and everybody of a certain generation is kind of like her grandkid kind of thing.
Mm.
A lot of her old adventuring party friends are dead. Like you said, her family might not be around or things. So I think it's a lot of like what many of, you know, some of the retirees or the elderly when they get to a certain stage of life of like, oh, and like, what do I do now? Because a lot of my loved ones are gone. So I think one of the reasons why she's doing what she's doing with both like the spy network and the dogs is bid for connection of like still trying to be relevant in this
Mm.
age and you know still getting to interact with people. It's one of the reasons why she took maybe like one of those professorships at the university or to like teach some of the classes is to like still be involved in the community and fulfill that role because she doesn't probably have too many like close interpersonal friendships. She's very accomplished in a professional sense and has a lot of
Mhm.
respect but probably doesn't have a lot of friends.
Yeah. Very interesting points that you're raising because it makes me wonder, think about like, like, oh, I'm the Civil War veteran that lived well into like the turn of the century. And so it's like people don't relate or understand. I was in the heyday of it. I was in the thick of it. And she, outliving everyone else. And I just wonder, again, dungeon masters can take it however they want, especially in regards to this spy network or this organization. I wonder if it, you said like a bid to stay relevant or stay connected. I wonder if it wasn't also just kind of like, oh, we need to put Baba Yaga to pasture because like she just can't cut it anymore. She can't hang with this new generation. And so this
They
is like
do things
her
differently
protest.
now, you know.
And
Especially, I imagine this might come into play a lot with maybe regulation as a new thing. You know,
yeah,
maybe when she started to be an adventurer, there weren't all these rules in the same way, and
back
maybe
in
she
my
was
day, you got gold and you kept it. You didn't have to pay a cut of it to the king, sort of
yeah,
a thing.
could be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, back in my day when we did things, it was this way. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it sounds like we got a character then. And you know
No,
what
I'm
we do
really
with,
excited.
yeah, you know what we do with characters on this podcast? We throw them into a random encounter.
Whoop, whoop.
This random encounter is brought to you by my sponsor, Zencastr. How do I use Zencastr? Well, that's the service that I'm using right now to be able to record my episodes of the podcast. It's what allows me to capture it all, put it into my editing machines on my new computer to get it processed and put forth onto the interwebs and podcast land for you all to enjoy. I was able to take part of this service, all thanks to my buddies Benjamin Huffman and Dane Fox McGraw over at the Dispel Magic podcast. And if you were at this time in your life wondering what can I be doing, what sort of hobbies or things that I could be branching out to, well, I'm here to talk to you today about Zencastr. It's so easy. It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen. Knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. You can sound your best. Have you ever wondered what you might sound like? Well, Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically works to remove those filler words in your recordings, and it makes those awkward pauses in conversation dip out as well. You can set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. It's all in one, so if you've thought about podcasting before and realize that you need a lot of different tools and services these days in order to do a podcast, well, I can assure you that those days are done. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute it to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SIDEKQ and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Again, go to zencastr.com/pricing, use my code SIDEKQ get that 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. Thank you so much for listening to this ad and for supporting the sponsor. It helps to support the show. And without further ado, on with the podcast. All right. So we've made it here to the random encounter section. So this is where we get to do a vignette, some role play, a scene with Victoria, the Pterafolk dog matchmaker, ex-spy, Baba Yaga, terror in the night of the espionage world or what have you. So the question I have for you is, what sort of scene are you going to want to present Victoria in today? Is she going to be meeting one of the podcast adventuring characters and they're going to get this side quest to get a dog companion, which could be exciting? Is it her meeting with another member of the organization, someone from the adventuring school? Or is it like a flashback to her last mission? Or I don't know. What sort of scene are you interested in showcasing Victoria off in?
You know what? Why don't you pick the podcast character and they stumble into Victoria's shop. Up to you whether or not they had an official letter from the guild referring the character on, or if they just like the look of the shop and they wander in, and we'll see whether or not this Baba Yaga like character deems them fit to have one of her canines.
Okay. All right. So let's unfurl the Rolodex and quickly go through the list of podcast characters we have. So we have Duncan, who's the recklessly brave adventurer for hire, happy go lucky, no feat too daring, no task too small, sort of a guy. We've got Sonia, who's the warrior woman, who started off as a barbarian and then multi-classed into a paladin who serves a god who wishes to redeem the undead. We have Korak. He's the lawful evil arcane trickster roguish dwarf. We've got Chrisley, who is the herbalist, botanist, wood elf druid, who then multi-classed into a cleric who serves living memory. We have Orion. He's the astral elf illusionist wizard. We have Agape, and she's the lilac-colored tiefling Sorlock. Started off as a wild magic sorcerer, and then made a pact with good old Proserpina. She refers to as Prosperina. Not actually correct how she says it, but she's kind of funny that way, and that's what she says. We've also got Lifespell, the necromancer. He's a forest gnome old man, and he's got a crew of skelly bros with him. And then we've also got Amberlyn Mithril Shaper, dwarvish bard extraordinaire. She's a greenhorn. She's only been on one adventure. But all these other characters are here. And if none of them sound interesting, then we can totally roll up a new character. Up to you.
I'm blanking on their name, but either you pick either the person who serves the god of the undead,
Okay.
or the guy with the skeleton crew.
Ooh, that, see, you give me two really good choices of Sonia or Lifespell. Lifespell has been on a roll lately, and it's also been it's been a little while since we heard from Sonia was featured most recently at the time of this recording with Alexander, the Mercurial Paladin, and then we've had
That was one of the ones
Lifespell.
I was listening to this morning.
There you go. I don't know. They're both good. So I don't know. Up to you, Sonia or Lifespell. Who speaks to you more, the barbarian paladin multiclass or the forest gnome old man necromancer? Do you think
Gnome old man, I think, would be very fun to have with the old lady Pterafolk.
Perfect. Okay.
So Victoria's Canine Matchmaking Emporium is located, it's one of the many shop fronts on this kind of cobblestone street. Very, very Victorian. We have gas lamps on the side. There's a bakery across the street and a bookshop and a pub and a hostel. this is the market street. This is where you go in this town to procure whatever kind of goods. So maybe this gnome was on the way to the bakery or something or other, and he comes across this big gilded sign that says, Victoria's Canine Matchmaking Emporium in kind of gilded letters. Is one of those hanging street signs, and then you see the same thing on the glass placard of the window shop front.
Okay. And yes, where we last left our hero, life spell, the necromancer. Well, he had finished up on an adventure. He had met the Quagoth Renglion when he was making his way to the dwarven city, and he was tasked with the mission of clearing out the sewers. And that was a whole adventure that he went on with his Skelly Bros. Some of them broke apart. He had to resurrect them. And you know what? I think maybe at this point he's acquired at least one new skeleton. So he's rolling 4 skeletons deep now. So he's got a dwarvish skeleton in tow now, and he has interesting names for all of them. And I don't know, just kind of curious, guest of the podcast. What's I don't know, what sort of interesting name do you think he gave this dwarven skeleton that he's now picked up in his crew?
The first thing that came to my brain was Bone Breaker for some reason.
Bone Breaker. That's cool. Yeah, Bone Breaker. That sounds like
the barbarian dwarf skeleton or something like that.
Yeah, Bone Breaker. Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, at this point, he's rolling deep with his Skelly Bros. So he, of course, as he enters the shop, well, it's interesting because there's like a whole skittling kabubble. I don't know. That's not the right word. Well, he's an old man. That's something he would say. But there's a whole group of people that come into the shop. Tingling. He enters the door, and it's a forest gnome. And he's an old man wearing robes, and kind of giving off a goth sort of old man. I guess if an old gnome could be goth, but a necromancer vibes.
The
I don't know.
OG.
Yeah, he's OG. He's like old school goth. So he comes strolling in, but he's got some other folk trailing behind him as his entourage. So he of course has Octavius, who's his manservant, who's well dressed in like a very cloak. He's got a mask and a top hat. So he of course has to keep up the fastest to play the part of the manservant. But he's also got some 2 big guys with him. So there is a Minotaur skeleton with him that is named Get Over Here. He kind of serves as the pack mule because he's got like a big chest strapped to his back. And so he's just, kind of cruising along, and he's worked to try and get like a robe or something rough put over him to not make it seem like, oh, a big walking skeleton. And then there's also a bugbear skeleton that he calls Slippin' Jimmy that's with him too. What's different about him? He did at least, he's not an artificer, but at least maybe he experimented, or he made an impulse purchase. He got an arcane arm attached to the skeleton. So one of Slipping Jimmy's arms happens to be like this, powered up arcane arm. So it does like a little bit more damage when he punches. But he was really happy after his last adventure with, at Renglion's prompting, because now he has Bonebreaker, who's like a, true blue in the blood, fighter, like a dwarven fighter. So that he like resurrected up. He's stocky. He's like a little bit taller than him, so he can like kind of hang with him. So if Slippin' Jimmy's the muscle, then like Bonebreaker for sure is like his bruiser that he wants like right at his side. So if someone starts giving him guff, he can just be like, get him, Bonebreaker, and then he can charge off with his battle axe and stuff. But he's worked with costuming. He's tried to make these skeletons look presentable in society, but most common folk look the other way. They're scared, they're terrified, but maybe more discerning eyes are able to pick up on the fact that he's a necromancer and he's rolling deep with Skelly Bros. So he's in the shop. He's puttering about and making old man noises. And he's like, oh, look here, fascinating. Oh, hello, the proprietor of this store. Hello.
And I think he just hears this rustling from above. And if you turn and look, the shop is actually quite deceptive on the outside because it extends up and there are rafters. And he sees some sort of wings flapping in the rafters as he's calling out. And upon hearing this, the proprietress of the shop will just swoop down from the rafters and land seated in her big armchair behind her desk.
Ah! Oh, good lord. Here, give me a heart attack. Why, Octavius, my vapors. And Octavius like pulls out a box and I guess he takes a huff of something that he's picked up in his travels that kind of helps calm him down. And he's like, very good. Yes, you are proprietor of the shop. Yes, very interesting store. I see here. It smells interesting. Yes, do you have anything for me to purchase? I have some. Get over here. And the big Minotaur Skeletor kind of lumbers over and he's like, the goods. And so he starts pulling out some of the looted stuff that he picked up in his last adventure as to offer up like proof of payment or something. He's like, yes, I heard rumors or tale when I asked, and they said that you had some of the best hounds about, and I'm always on the hunt for skeletons. Don't ask me why. I'm an archaeologist, don't you know? And I'm always interested in finding skeletons, for history's sake. Yes, so I need a good hound that will help me find more skeletons, because, yes. She can roll her insight check, and she can naturally critically succeed and tell he's lying through his teeth. But he's trying to do his old man best of duttering and muttering and trying to play it off like, oh, I'm a sweet old man who's an archaeologist apparently, but I look very OG goth and have some jerking servants and posse with me.
And I think Victoria knows this con or knows this act because she too herself puts on the same kind of facade when speaking to others. And so I think she just kind of puts her elbows on the desk and kind of leans with her hands folded and puts her large pterodactyl beak on her hands and says, well, now you heard correctly. Yes, here in my humble shop, I help many an adventurer find their proper canine adventuring companion. Have you any references? Have you owned a hound before?
Let's see. Oh, what was it? 40 years ago, I had a companion. Yes, he was a good dog. Quite sad when he had to go. Yeah. And he starts putting on the act of like the old man who's sad about his dog, but he genuinely is very sad. The best blink dog I ever had. He was a good boy. He was a good boy. Yes.
Is this your adventuring party behind you? I'm sorry, my dear, my eyes aren't quite what they used to. And she kind of fumbles with her spectacles dramatically, being like, I'm an old lady and I'm not quite sure who it is that you have behind you.
Oh, yes. Well, this is my manservant, Octavius, and Octavius will do the thing where he takes off his hat and bow because he has that command figured out. This is get over here. He's his job is to get over here, and he's my personal valet. He carries all the heavy things for my bones. My bones are not quite as strong as his. And then we have Slippin' Jimmy over here. He is my muscle. And so Slippin' Jimmy does the program thing of like he shows off the arcane arm and does like a muscle pose. And this is my newest recruit, Bonebreaker. I found him in the Dwarven City, just over there. And he was hankering for adventure and all that good stuff. So yes, I think a dog would be perfect to round out my crew. Yes.
Well, it sounds like you have quite the varied crew with you. And would you be looking after this canine, or would your manservant perhaps? I just like to get a good idea of who's looking after the dog and what that would entail.
Oh, I suppose it'd be me. I mean, I as you can see, I happen to be the smallest of my troop. It's nice to ride up on Get Over Here's shoulders, but I'm quite comfortable being low to the ground. Sometimes it's a little scary being up there, don't you know, being this old. And it might be nice to have a mount for myself, for my size and my age, to be able to go about on my way in the world and look quite dashing in the process.
So would you be looking for one of our larger canines? You would like one that is rideable to you?
Yes, that would be quite fancy. Yes, a shadow mastiff, a hound of hell. I hear yethy hounds, something of that nature. A warg, something with bravado and gusto and finding bones would be quite apt for me.
Yeah, so some sort of scent hound. It sounds like if you want them to be able to do some nose work, this I can do. And what kind of adventures would this hound be going on? I just like to match them on a basis of energy and durableness. The hound that goes with the crew that's going to slay the dragon is very different than the hound that is going on to spy missions.
Hmm. Yes. Well. Hmm. Well, I'm always seeking more employment for my merry band. So really, just archaeology and finding skeletons for the army museum. The army museum, yes. The great historians who like to find the bones and set them up in their historical poses in their wardrobe and costumery. And he starts like old man, like where he's starting to give away his plan, but he's trying to cover it up as he goes along. So I'm Mr. Magoo befuddling my words and trying to just push my way through it. Yeah, so just that is the day in of it. My life is just finding the bones for the army museums. That's what I've been charged to do, and that's my plan. And I'm saying those words, yes.
And do you have much experience with taking care of bones then? Do you have any way of reanimating bones? Because of course some of the dogs in this emporium, some are quite alive and there are others that are quite dead. Are you looking for a canine?
His eyes light up when you say dead dogs. Like he could have like a skeleton dog. He's like he's trying to contain his joy when you say that, and he's like, "Oh, well, I mean, I need good skeletons for the museum, of course. I mean, I don't need a dog who will chew them up, but I mean, if a hound of bones can find more bones, I mean, that would be very fine indeed."
It's been poor Bonesby has been at the Emporium for many a year. See, the challenge I've been having is really I can only let him go to a home that has some skill with necromancy. He was revivified by a necromancer, and then that necromancer unfortunately
Ah,
perished himself. He was an adventurer, and so I'm
yeah.
reluctant to let him go with just
Oh,
anyone
the
because
fool. He's a
should
half-rated necromancer then if he died. Oh.
because if something of course were to happen to poor Bonesby, I just couldn't forgive
oh,
myself, so I could
oh
only let him
yeah.
go with somebody who would be able to keep him alive and revivify him if something were to happen to him.
I think at this point, his like Mr. Toad mania has now finally been revealed. He's like, yes, with Bonesby, I will be on my way to my army. And he starts climbing up. He has like help to help him get on the desk, and he's monologuing, and it's like you can see like the spot like zooming in on him as he's like monologuing his evil plan. He's like, yes, with Bonesby at my side, I will be able to find skeletons twice as fast, and then I will be on my way to my army. Yes, my plan is coming to fruition. And he starts cackling, and then he realizes where he is. Oh, I'm so sorry, my lady, my Octavius. I need my mints. My mints. Give me my mints.
It's quite all right, dear. It's quite all right. Would you like to meet Bonesby and see if you get on?
Yes, please. This is like the most sweet he's ever been. He's like, yes, please. I must have this dog. Give me him now.
So I think she takes her talons and like puts them in her mouth to do this big like whistle, like like very, very loud, and you just hear a rumble. And the stonework in the building, like it's not gonna fall or anything, but it's like it's an earthquake. There's just thumping, and it gets louder, louder, and louder and louder from down the hall. And bursting in through this door, this skeleton dog is taller than even the Minotaur. He is huge.
What?
Hellhound sized dog, very clearly was a scent hound, perhaps for a giant race or something. Very unique, but very unlikely that he would have seen anything like this before. But it is a scent hound, totally boned and huge, and he's just staring at the group of skeletons, being like, huge thumping, wagging bone tail.
This is the happiest that Lifespell the Necromancer has ever been in his entire life. Forget the other skeletons. He only has eyes for Bonesby right now. And you said he's a hellhound, but he's like category huge?
Yeah. He's like taller than think of like the really big horses.
So he's like Clifford.
Yeah.
He's undead Clifford.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is everything.
Giant, this was like a breed of giant dogs that were bred for a breed of giant people kind of thing. Like this.
A death giant's dog.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, he Lifespell yells at Get Over Here to empty everything in his chest. He will dump his entire war chest for this dog. Lifespell is just beside himself. He's Mr. Toad Mania, crack, cocaine, an addiction, whatever. Like every single emotion and mood that he can express, he's just losing himself. He's just like, this is the greatest. Yes, my prayers have been answered. And he's just so excited.
Oh, no, dear. There's no need for all of that. We have a contract here if you'd be willing to sign it. And the only stipulations are that if for whatever reason you could not care for Bonesby, he would come back into my care, just because I don't want him roaming around out there in the world all on his own. But I think he will be in good hands. I think you have a unique skill set to look after Bonesby.
Yes.
Other stipulations in the contract are, if you come across any other dogs while out on your adventures that need a home, just drop them off at an adventuring guild and they'll find their way back for me. Of course, if they are of the skeletal variety and you feel like you can provide them a good home, feel free and keep them as part of your crew. But I just have all of the adopters at the Emporium sign kind of a goodwill to canines clause, where if they find an abandoned dog, they will drop them off or find them a home somewhere.
I do play Lifespell like he is like lawful evil. I don't know if this would necessarily force an alignment change of him, but like there's just something sacred to when it comes with a dog, and him having gotten Bonesby, the undead Clifford dog, he will agree to whatever. You say he doesn't need to empty his war chest, but he's not going to readily scoop it all back up just yet. He's like, fine, whatever. Octavius, give me the contract. And so like Octavius like wobbles over, gets the contract and hands it to him, and Lifespell, with the biggest, most flourishing of signatures, signs it Lifespell. And then, hands the contract back, and he's just like, he's got the gimme hands and he's ready for this dog.
Okay. Bonesby, are you ready to go to your new home? And you just see this giant skeleton Clifford thump, 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 being like so excited. Okay, go ahead, greet your new master. And a bony tongue just goes up to Lifespell and gives him a lick.
And scene. That was brilliant. I was thinking like, oh, how is she going to do this? And like, it'd be really cool. Lifespell gets like a Shadow Mastiff. He gets like a Hellhound. That seems up his vibe as a Necromancer. But then you just pulled out, oh, this was a rare breed of dog that a Death Giant once bred. And now Lifespell, who is a categorically small creature, now has a huge sized Clifford as part of his crew. Amazing. this was everything that Lifespell ever wanted with his life.
Well, I'm glad to have added to his entourage and to have found Bones be the right home. And that's why Victoria has that clause of like, if you find these strange people that need dogs, to write to her because she might just have the dog for them.
Yes. And now I'm just very curious of the stat blocks for this huge sized skeletal dog. So that way, if we need to introduce Bonesby the dog in our campaign, then we could do that.
Absolutely. I will have him because, like I said, I am creating like an index of these various like mythical dog breeds. So I will absolutely write something up for Bonesby and send that to you.
That is amazing. That's awesome. Yes. So we've made it through the random encounter. And how do you think it was getting to be Victoria? You had this idea coming in. We rolled some dice. We kind of hemmed and hawed back and forth and traded ideas, and we made it through the random encounter. So how do you think it was getting to be Victoria?
This was so fun. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit hesitant when I got like the Pterafolk. I was like, I had halfling in mind. You know, this was a very much so a different direction. But
Mhm.
I was thinking like benevolent smog. Like I know they're not quite the same, but it's kind of like the dragon with their horde. She like hoards dogs and has like the contract and that sort of thing. So this was really fun. This was way cooler than I thought when I thought about like a dog matchmaker. This is awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, with the statistical averages of dice, sometimes I'm curious of like the occupations that we get on an episode, or even the most common races and species and ancestries that we get. So this is the first time having got a Pterafolk. And I know some years ago with Melanie Doucette, we got, you know, the Yakiria, the Yak folk. So like it's another big guy ancestry. So that's really cool. And now I'm just eager, you know, to introduce Victoria in my game somewhere, and just like, oh yeah, dog emporium. You want to have like a cool beast hound in your party, and this is the way to do it. And of course, you know, if we could get a Bonesby in our game, like why wouldn't we want the undead giant sized hound in our party?
He won't help you with stealth, but you know.
Right, but if you need to smell like the undead, or you need to find something that's
Yeah,
undead,
he's your dog.
he's your dog. Perfect. So yeah, we're here in the final thoughts section of the show. So certainly we like to get, you know, feedback and critiques, and, you know, other words that come to your mind that you want to share. But ultimately, this is the part of the show where, you know, you get to plug all your stuff. So, you know, where can you be found on social media? Where can we go to support you and catch you and all the things that you're doing? And then any passions or causes we need to be made aware of. This is your time to shine.
This is very kind. Honestly, Kurt, thank you so much for having me on. I'm now just sad that I don't get to have a brainstorming session with you for all of the rest of the NPCs I'm going to create. I think I'm just going to keep the questions up and do the dice modifier, because what I had in my brain for the dog matchmaker is not nearly as cool as Victoria. So I think I'm just going to have to recreate your process for the rest of the NPCs I'm going to have in this campaign.
Yeah.
I guess plugging on both Discord and Instagram. I'm at the Canine Detective. That is also my name on Start Playing. So by the time this comes out, Victoria should be alive and well and in multiple one-shots and campaigns on Discord for adventurers that would like to have canine companions. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it, because really I am just trying to blend my love and knowledge of dogs and dog training into the RPGs. And so I think it will be really, really fun to have her to play with.
And there we go. So, Kirsten K, the dog canine trainer, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast and the show. And I can't wait to have you back on, making even more interesting NPCs.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Overcast, or YouTube, or feel free to save the RSS feed to use the app or player of your choice. Visit our website, sidekicksandsidequests.com, for links, write-ups of the NPCs, and to learn more about the show and the guests who have been on it. To stay up to date and interact via social media, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, Instagram/Threads, Twitter/X, and Reddit by searching for Side KQ Podcast. You can also find our small Discord community as well online. I would love to talk D&D and showcase your fan art, stories of how you used our NPCs, discussions, and commentary. And hey, if you'd like to hail the bard and send me a message, an email, you can do so by communicating with sidekicksandsidequests@gmail.com. To help this show be the resource it's meant to be, I ask that you leave a review on iTunes, 5 stars please, to help spread the word and share our podcast with your friends and family. Whether you're a veteran player or an aspiring dungeon master, there's something here for everyone, and I want to hear about it. As mentioned in the NPC creations section of the podcast, I do in fact have a Patreon for Sidekicks and Sidequests. If you love this podcast and what we're trying to do here, I would appreciate it if you would just go to the website, patreon.com/sidekicks and sidequests. No matter your lifestyle expenses, we have wonderful rewards at every level of Patreon membership tier. Modest, comfortable, wealthy, and aristocratic accommodations await, and we welcome all patrons to the Levitating Platter. Seriously, your financial support allows for this passion project to continue to invest in itself through the tools that will take our production to the next level, as well as provide more content for our patrons and the community at large. Please consider supporting me on Patreon if you can.
Sidekicks and Sidequests is unofficial fan content permitted under the fan content policy.
Meaning I'm not approved or endorsed by Wizards.
Portions of the materials used are property of Wizards of the Coast.
Copyright Wizards of the Coast,
LLC.
Thank you for your support, and I'll see you at the pub next time.
Bar to rock on 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.